As trade and free agency rumors continue to escalate surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays as the offseason is getting underway, a new article is dropped revealing some key Toronto Blue Jays targets that they will be going after if Juan Soto falls through. So to break down those targets, discuss exactly what the report entails, and discuss what it can mean going forward as the Jays enter one of their most pivotal off seasons in the past decade. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, if you're part of the percentage that aren't subscribed to the channel, it would mean the world to myself if you could hit that subscribe button. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there in Canada and who celebrates. Hopefully you're enjoying your day off, enjoying your turkey dinner, and enjoying some playoff baseball. That we've had some luxury of watching some great playoff baseball over the past week or two. Fortunately, the Jays aren't in it, but that's why today we're going to be discussing players that they can get in order to actually make that dream a reality. The dream of the Jays making the playoffs, which was supposed to, of course, happen this year. But let's just dive right into it. So you can see this here. An article dropped saying 3 Toronto Blue Jays backup plans when Juan Soto negotiations inevitably fall through. If the Blue Jays fall short in signing Juan Soto this winter, they will need a few backup plans to bolster their 2025 roster. Now, obviously, this article doesn't have much optimism. It says if the plans inevitably fall through, and it's a good point because last season and last offseason, we obviously know they went for Shohei Ohtani. It did not work. And like Chris Bassett called out the front office, they basically said, hey, they have no backup plan. They have no alternative. This is why the Jays need to have alternatives, because we know they're going to be going very, very hard for Juan Soto. They're going to try to acquire him. They're going to be making him an astronomical offer, according to multiple reports. But if that falls through, they need to have backup plans. Let's start with the first one, Anthony Santander. So Anthony Santander has been a guy that if you've been watching, or if you watch the Jays season this year, guys like Dan Shulman, Buck Martinez, every time the Jays would play the Orioles, they would say, hey, this is a guy the Jays need to go after. And they've been linked to the Jays for a while, and he had a phenomenal year last year. And you see in the article here, Toronto didn't have an outfielder with more than 50 games that had a batting average over 230 or an OPS plus over 100, which is league average. Offensively, their outfielders were just playing bad, led by the overpaid George Springer. They want to land an outfielder. That does damage. Orioles switch hitter Santander is headed towards unrestricted free agency. And this last season, before the Orioles got eliminated in the wild card, he had 44 home runs. And again, he is very good. He destroyed the Blue Jays. Santander would be a super interesting player for the Toronto Blue Jays for a few different reasons here. I'll just give you a sneak peek at the second guy. But obviously for Santander, he has been a player who's been on the Orioles for a while and has been terrorizing the Blue Jays for a very long time. He is a power hitter. He's a switch hitter. He could fit right into the middle of the Toronto Blue Jays lineup and help protect guys like Vladdy, guys like Bo. And at a point now where the offense is very lackluster, and of course the outfield production from the offensive side is lackluster as well. I mean, you have guys like Dalton Varsho, who's a league average hitter, one of the best defenders, so that's fine if he's hitting 7 or 8 in your lineup. But you also have guys like George Springer, who was a below league average hitter. Joey Loperfido, who's a below league average hitter. It got to the point where, I mean, at the start of the year, you had Kevin Kiermaier, who's also a below league average hitter. You need to make a big splash, and they're going to need an outfielder. And if they can't land Juan Soto, I think Anthony Santander could be a super interesting player, especially given the fact that he's becoming an unrestricted free agent, but he's familiar with the AL East. And the question is, would he want to join the Toronto Blue Jays after coming from a team like the Orioles that are, you know, perennial contenders at this point? Even though they've fallen short back-to-back years, haven't won a series in 2 years, they might be able to actually, obviously they have tons of young players, they're going to be able to continue to play well, but it's a very interesting player, tons of power, tons of upside, switch hitter, could help protect Vladdy, and could make a ton of sense for the Toronto Blue Jays if they can get this done. And his name has been linked to the Jays for a very long time. And that's going to be interesting to see what they can do with that, because a switch hitter who can hit 40-plus home runs at any given year is something the Jays fans have been clamoring about for a while. But let's move on now to Cody Bellinger. The rumors are back with Cody Bellinger. With the Jays looking for an outfielder bat, there are a few better options than Cody Bellinger, who has the ability to consistently play first base. Now, he's obviously on a contract with the Cubs right now, but the Jays were heavily in on Cody Bellinger last offseason. They almost signed him. There were some reports and there were some times where many Jays fans thought they actually were going to sign him, and they ultimately did not, unfortunately. But what's interesting about Cody Bellinger is that, again, last year, or this past year, he slashed 266, 325, 426 for the Cubs. So 750-ish OPS. But the interesting thing here is that in 2023, again, he had his great year. And when the Blue Jays were going for him in last offseason, that was coming off of one of his best years in a while. We remember with the Dodgers, there was a time where he was unplayable, and then he had a great year, and then he got, of course, signed, and then went on to have a solid year. So his median is probably somewhere in between. If you sign him for the Toronto Blue Jays, you're probably expecting a decent player, but I'm not super sold on getting a guy like Cody Bellinger for this Toronto Blue Jays team, because again, we went through that whole process last offseason. It didn't work out. The Chicago Cubs ultimately got him. He's a pretty good defender. He's been playing a bit more first and DH lately. It would help protect Vladdy. He's a power left-handed hitting bat. But this past year, he wasn't great. I mean, a 750-ish OPS is solid. It's fine. But I think if you're the Toronto Blue Jays and if you're a lot of fans out there, you want them to go swinging for the fences a little bit more than what they did with Cody Bellinger. And that's the big difference here. At this point, the way the Jays have been playing and the way that their offense has really stifled the past handful of years coming off of that 2021 season, I think Jays fans out there, myself included, I want them to go for bigger fish. Even guys like the first guy we mentioned would be a better option than Cody Bellinger to me. I prefer Anthony Santander, a guy who can put up 40 home runs. He's not going to hit for average. He's not going to be a great defender. But if you can just get power into this lineup, you have very solid defense around the board, especially in the outfield. You have Dalton Varsho, one of the best outfielders, if not the best outfielder defender, borderline the best defender in baseball, who can put up 4 or 5 WAR by being just a pure defensive-minded outfielder. You have him to help carry your defense. You have some other guys. Vlad, who can play first at a fairly high level, but at this point, they're probably going to put, I mean, there's a world where they put him to third base to get another hitter. I don't think they're going to want to get Cody Bellinger to put him at first base or to be a designated hitter. I think at this point, they're going to want an outfielder who has thump, who can consistently play in the outfield and provide a ton of power. And a guy who can do that is the number one option here, which is Teoscar Hernandez. We covered him a couple videos ago. I mean, he's been unbelievable this year. He's been unbelievable for the Dodgers in the playoffs. And it's a guy that the Jays could have went for at multiple occasions. They could have not traded him. They could have extended him. He loved being in Toronto. They could have traded for him at the deadline 2 years ago in 2023. And now, in theory, they have a chance coming off of a 1-year, $20 million deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I'd assume he's going to want to re-sign with the Dodgers because of their success, depending how far they go. If they win the World Series, I'd assume he's going to want to re-sign there, and the Dodgers will probably pay him the money that he deserves because he had that Grand Slam. He had one of the best playoff moments we've seen in years with the Grand Slam for the Dodgers. So it's like, at this point, signing Teoscar seems like something that a pipe dream at this point, from the sense of he wants to be in Toronto, or wanted to be in Toronto. They had their chances. They didn't do it, and now it seems like he's kind of just moved on. But I mean, we've seen his reaction when Hazel May interviewed him during the ALCS and things like that. It's been going good for him in Los Angeles, but he is a phenomenal player, and a lot of fans share the sentiment. Like, if we want one player that would make most sense for the team, it would be Teoscar Hernandez. I'm just not sold on the fact, and I agree that I want Teoscar Hernandez in the Blue Jays. It would make a ton of sense. I'm just not sold on the fact that the front office is going to go ahead and say, hey, I had so many chances, now's the time to do it. I think they'd rather swing for the fence with a guy like Anthony Santander, maybe even Cody Bellinger. Although I think Cody Bellinger is a little bit far-fetched. I think Anthony Santander makes a bit more sense. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. Do you want to see the Blue Jays go for a guy like Anthony Santander or Teoscar Hernandez, or should they let me know some other options in the comments what your thoughts are. Hopefully they land the big fish in Juan Soto. And enjoy your Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're all enjoying it. And hopefully you're enjoying the postseason baseball. See you soon.